Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. The information in this episode is not medical advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. Welcome to the Wellness Wednesday Powerful Whispers podcast. Today's episode, we're talking to Kim Wagner. She was a nurse for over 20 years before she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. With decades of medical experience, nothing prepared her for what to do next, except God. From day one, she shares how the Lord was with her, guiding her steps. This is such an encouraging episode filled with hope and tips and tricks on what you can do to help prevent cancer or what to do if you or a loved one are diagnosed with cancer. If you're wondering if true wellness is possible, then this episode is for you. Well, hi, Kim. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to get to know more about your story. It's really incredible. And the funny thing I have to say is I feel like I know you already, even though we've never chatted, but you know my mom so well. And so it's just wonderful to have you here. Welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
We're going to dive into all about your cancer journey. So take me back to the beginning. I think it was 2010 where you were working as a nurse, 25 years experience. And what went through your mind when you heard stage 4 cancer?
Yeah, so crazy. So I was working as a emergency room nurse at the time. I had just some minimal, like some lumps that I had found. We thought it was nothing. Of course, time went on with some more testing. And totally got that stage 4 lymphoma diagnosis. And so, I came home that day. I literally remember it like it, a movie plays in your head, right? And I came home that day and, family had come over, my mom, of course, my husband, kids were at school, my brother. I mean, I'm just, sobbing at this point. And I just was staring out the little picture window that we had there. And I heard myself say, "Why, God?" And he instantly answered me back with, "I have not abandoned you." And so it was almost like I was starting to have this little dialogue with him where he's like, "Hello, I did not wake up today, Kim Wagner," and go, "What happened?" You know what I mean? And so somehow I was just able to reflect on just his faithfulness and his goodness and just hearing that word about that I have not abandoned you. And instantly he reminded me of my favorite story, one of my favorite stories in the Bible, which is the story of Joseph, where what was meant for evil, God can use for good, basically. And so I really I sat at the table and just really focused on that. And I said, okay, I'm going to do what I can do and I'm going to let you do the rest. And it was just like one step, one foot in front of the other moving forward. But it was hard. It was hard. I had like a sixth grader and an almost 8th grader. And it was hard. I was, am I going to see them grow up? Am I going to see them graduate, get married, have babies? I had all of those questions.
I'm so wowed by that story that you paused, you were listening to God and you opened the Bible and you were reflecting on his word. That's faith in action right there. You were like, okay, this is hard and scary. But you were leaning into God, and he was right there with you in the really tough parts. Whoa.
Yeah.
So
thank you. You're making me be very reflective. You know what I mean? And just to reflect like so much on his goodness, because I knew, I didn't want to die. I was hoping that wasn't the plan for me right then, but I also had security, right? In that I knew that this isn't the end, right? Like this life is not the end, but I knew that I was ready to partner up with him and fight, right? And do what I could. And I have never, even looking back after, almost 16 years, I have never cursed cancer. There's so many things out there where people have these, 4-letter words, cancer. And, I have always seen it as a blessing. And it has grounded me in a completely different way, spiritually, emotionally, relationally. God has used it to heal so much of my own past and my heart and taught me so much. And I don't wish it for anyone else, but I'm glad that day he helped me to just really surrender to his plan, right?
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily come from him in a sense of like, hey, this is, but because it kind of just was allowed through his hands, I was able to just be able to see the goodness in it. And so for that, I'm very grateful.
Yes. Amen. That's
Yeah.
good.
You didn't tell me I was going to need tissues.
I know. I didn't pull mine right next to me. I
Well,
am a crier, so I'll
same.
cry right along with you.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
So after that really important moment with the Lord, what was the next thing you did on your journey?
Yeah. So, here I am in the medical model, conventional, that was my life, right? I mean, since literally 13, I started as a candy striper in the hospital, right? Like filling water pitchers and making beds, right? Like, so my whole life had been, I had always wanted to be a nurse to help people. So the first thing I did, in that medical model was I followed the steps, right? I got the labs, I did the PET scan, I did the bone marrow biopsy, got a second opinion. But the really cool thing that happened, again, God, is one of the things that I had to do was meet with a dietitian. And this dietitian reached out to me personally and said she recognized that we lived a block from each other in this small little town of like 600 people. And we kind of knew of each other, I think, from the hospital. But she said, Kim, can I come to your home and do your nutrition assessment and education? And I said, absolutely. Come on over, Wanda. Wanda was her name. And she came over, and that was the most eye-opening experience that I ever had. And again, I believe led by God that she wanted to speak freely to me, right? So when she sat down with me, she was very crunchy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talked about whole foods. We talked about what I'm putting on my skin, what am I breathing in the air, quality of the supplements that I was using. And she talked to me about my spirit, right? And so she began to open my eyes to this very holistic, and I dove in. And I was like, luckily I was able to take 3 years off of work to go through that healing process. I had 6 months of a chemo regimen. I had a port placed on my birthday, on my 36th birthday. But anyway, I was able to just really dig in and to learn, again, that mind, body, spirit type of thing. And so I just educated myself. I did follow, at the time, that chemo regimen, but I was so supporting my body in so many other ways. And I began to just question things. I think that was the big thing, is that I questioned, like, this doesn't make sense, right? Why do we not care about our vitamin D level? And even though 30 is normal, it's not optimal, right? Exactly. And so the really cool other God thing is in my small little community, I had an amazing oncologist as well, who was from Turkey and open to not just take this drug and nothing else matters, right? I had him checking his vitamin D level by the time we were done. And he was coming to me during infusions going, Kim, this is what should I do? You know what I mean? It was really a cool relationship. So yeah, it opened a lot of doors and it opened my mind a lot. And again, just the Lord led me in so many different communities and groups and teachings, education for that holistic approach to my healing.
So as a dietitian myself, I will say, wow, Wanda was way ahead of her time and way ahead of most dietitians, because that's not something that we were taught in college. So she, I believe, was also listening to the Lord and really knew cutting edge ways to help and heal. That is so amazing. Yeah. That's right there, a blessing with your dietitian and the oncologist to both be so open to holistic ways of treatment. Wow. Very.
It's kind of like the scripture, like I reflected, it reminded me of, you'll hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Right. And that is kind of the experience that I feel like I had. So it's listening to the voice.
That's good. So back in those early days, would you say that being a nurse was helpful, or did it hinder you in your steps forward?
I'd say both. I mean, the helpful part was that I already had some relationships there, right? Like I was a small community, fairly known. I felt comfortable, right? With the oncologist, with the nursing staff. The hard part would have been that I know too much, right? In a sense of like all the what if scenarios, like I'm kind of the queen of that anyway, just ask my kids, being an ER nurse. Also, since I have learned having some trauma background, the what if scenarios just start to go. So that was hard a little bit. But then, the other negative thing was that I was unlearning a lot of things that I had learned. Again, that has been a process, and it still is a process today, 16 years later, because, when you have grown up just in the world the way that it is, and then you're trained in that similar conventional allopathic kind of medicine, it's your first thing is, oh, fever, I'll take some Tylenol, right? Where it's like, no, wait, fever is good. How can I support my body? So it was good and bad. Yeah.
I get that. So as a dietitian, let's see. So my journey has been the last 3 years, I am unlearning what I was taught in my undergraduate and my graduate degree.
Yeah.
Not all of it's wrong, but boy, there was a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
So at what point did you realize that treatment alone wasn't enough and that healing had to go deeper?
I don't even know that it necessarily was the 3 years that I went through chemo. Kind of like I said, that model of 3 years of healing. I did go back to work for about 5 years at an OBGYN office after, which was a lot less stressful than the ER. But I think it came to a point, this is kind of where I feel like it went a little bit deeper, is I had some grief counseling. We had cared for my father-in-law who lived in our home with us for about 4 years, and lots of grief there. So I had met with a grief counselor, and she introduced me to a book called Childhood Disrupted. And she introduced me to something called an ACE study. Are you familiar with it at all?
No, I'm not.
Called Adverse Childhood Experience. And it's a 10-question little form. And what she found, the psychologist who wrote the book, what she found was that women, especially who had things on this checklist of 10, tend to have autoimmune, cancer, a lot more health issues. And when I took that ACE study, I scored a 7 out of 10. And that was very eye-opening to me. And that's really where I think that my healing journey went beyond what should I eat, how should I move my body, what are my thoughts, and it went a little bit deeper. And so that has been a big part of my healing journey, of just understanding how traumas, big or little, childhood or adult, can really have an impact on our physical body, especially children, because we don't know what we don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know how to express some of those traumas, or that they even need healed, or most of them, a lot of times, they're not even talked about for, in my case, over 40 years. That was a really big piece of the puzzle for me, and God just revealed things. I always think of it like an onion. He reveals different parts, and then I always feel that he intends to heal them once he reveals them. And sometimes it's keep revealing and keep learning, but that was really a turning point for me in my healing journey.
I was just listening to a podcast episode. Now, the guy's name is escaping me, but he's the founder of Hope for Cancer. So anyways, he talks a lot about that emotional healing journey. And I'm not sure if it was him, but some other people that I've been listening to, it talks about forgiveness is so key, that
huge.
In order to heal, especially from cancer, you have to forgive, and then your body will be like, okay, now we're ready to heal the whole body.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true, because we're not just, one system in our body, right? Like, I think some misinformation out there would be that people think that the kind of cancer that you're diagnosed with, let's say breast cancer, okay, that they don't understand that that's a systemic disease. It is not just rooted in all of a sudden something popped up in a breast, right? There's so many other roots that got us to having a breast cancer diagnosis, right? And so I think that that's really important for people to understand.
Yeah, that's good. I have a new learning this week, and I'm just going to throw this in here.
Okay.
Thermography.
Yes.
Do you know much about thermography?
Yes, I've had a few.
Okay, well, good, because What I was learning this week is how much earlier thermography can detect any cancer cells compared to a mammogram.
Yeah.
I had
That's
no
a
idea.
whole nother podcast, girlfriend, because that was the reason why I got one initially was because of a root canal.
No. Oh, that gives me chills.
Don't even get me started.
Well, yeah, okay.
It is a truly another podcast.
Session 2 and 3 sounds like
Yeah.
here we
Yeah.
come because
Yes.
right. Oh, yes, that I tell you those root canals.
Yep.
Not
But
good.
I've been able to have a thermography, implement different things, and see the improvement in my physical body. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Good. Would you say there's other things that you think that most people really misunderstand about cancer and chronic disease today outside of the emotional part?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think even on the American Cancer Society or Association's website, it says only 5 to 10% of cancer is hereditary. It's genetic, meaning that's what I try to explain to people, that if only 5 to 10% is genetic, I mean, even within that, we have control, right? Whether we turn those gene expressions off and on. So many times when people come and they're like, oh, so-and-so, I have high blood pressure, my mom had high blood pressure or diabetes, whatever the thing is, I'm like, well, it is probably not a genetic component. It's probably your environment.
Yeah.
You didn't, maybe the way that you were brought up, how to eat, how to move your body or not move your body, how you handled stress, how you didn't handle stress. And so that's what we're passing on, is more of that environment, and the choices that we make is what we pass on. And that's why it's so important to me. Yes, I wanted to get healthy for me, but I also wanted to do that to pass that. It's a legacy thing. And it's not a legacy that I learned from a business coach one time. She challenged me because I said, I want to leave this legacy. And she's like, Kim, live your legacy now. Don't wait.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking about what I'm doing, whether I'm jumping on the trampoline and having fun with my grandkids, right? Or trying to make a healthier sweet treat or whatever that may be, I'm thinking that, or whether we're canning from our garden or doing whatever we're doing, I'm thinking this is something that I want to pass on, but I want to live it right now too.
Love that. That's powerful. Leading by example. I'm sure your kids saw a difference in how you were living from like pre-diagnosis to afterwards. I can see so much joy that came from your discovery of what you can do. And jumping on the trampoline, that's so good.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do.
Get that lymphatic drainage going.
Right. That's right. I have a little mini rebounder in my office, but the big trampolines outside, we can do a lot more things on that.
That's so good. Let's talk a little bit about environmental factors. Were there some, looking back on that, be like, oh, that could have been a contributor, or if I were to, go back and change things, this is what I would have done before?
Yeah. I mean, of course, you would think as a nurse, I would think about this, but, and again, that dietitian Wanda is the one that planted the seed in my head, right? We have a skin, which is our largest organ, right? And huge pores on our feet that heat up in the shower. So what was I cleaning my shower with, right? What was I putting on my skin? My laundry detergent, my makeup, my skincare, my lotion. Also, interestingly, my husband and I had a greenhouse. We had a garden, but we would have grown everything conventional in the beginning, right? So I had a lot, some exposure to Roundup. I mean, I remember one time spraying Roundup all around the fence, right? And my son getting this huge rash all over his body. But again, so I wouldn't have worn a mask to do that. It was just the normal. But the crazy thing is that immediately after a cancer diagnosis, thank God, my husband literally started to do research, and he's like, whoa, and he actually came up with, I think it was a study from Purdue with Roundup and lymphomas. Interesting, huh?
Wow. They knew that already back then.
Yeah. So was it the only cause? No, I don't think it was the only cause, but it definitely contributed. So, a little bit by little bit, I mean, the chemicals in the garden and all that, we stopped immediately. And then I began to slowly swap out those other things in my life.
Yeah.
So I do think that it all had a part to play.
So I do have some conversations often with my girlfriends. Like, it's overwhelming, especially for the items in your house, your skincare, your cleaning products. Is there an area that you would say, if you're going to do one trade out first as you're moving through the list, what would be like the category that you would want to trade out in your house?
That's a hard question because I want to go immediately to the cleaning products, but then I'm also thinking, well, but my skincare's on my skin all day long.
Yeah.
So it is hard. I mean, let's say maybe the easiest would be the cleaning products. Those are super easy to clean out. There's different brands out there. You can make your own. Like, I can't make my own mascara, So it would be a very simple, I think a simpler, kind of like check the box, yay, I'm doing this type of thing would be to change out those cleaners. Yeah.
So I personally started, over a year ago. I have switched over to Branch Basics. I don't know if you
I've
know
heard of
them or like them. And it was a big investment to begin with, but as I literally did calculations last week, I'm like, it's cheaper because it's so concentrated and a little goes a long way. What is something that you stopped doing during your healing journey that was just as powerful, perhaps, as what you might have added?
So what I stopped doing, and I want to say stop, but it's a continual process. I think what I recognized that I was doing was being very hard on myself. There was a lot of critical self-talk going on in my head. So God gave me this. So I know we necessarily haven't talked about it, but I, of course, left nursing. I know we might be getting there, but I left nursing, went back and got a health coaching degree and have my own business now, health coaching. And the Lord gave me a vision statement, like literally dropped it in me. And it was to restore identity, hope, and health to the daughters of God through a grace-based approach to wellness. And so the thing that I stopped learning how to do was pushing and performing and striving and beating myself up and being super self-critical. And I learned how to have more self-compassion and grace with myself. And that everybody thinks and yes, it's good to be disciplined, but everybody thinks you need discipline and motivation and whatever. And partially that is true. But I think it's when you can learn how to speak kinder to yourself and give yourself a lot more grace. One lesson that I think the Lord taught me, because I think you can come into this with a lot of shame sometimes if you've had a cancer diagnosis or, a chronic disease, or even just you're overweight, right? Like, you can come into this health journey with carrying a lot of shame. And I think that if we can put on the hat more of self-compassion, the Lord taught me that the decisions that I made whenever back then, I probably made out of some of my own brokenness, right? And so he has so much grace and mercy for us that I was just like, oh my gosh, he just wants to help me heal. Like, he doesn't care about what I did before. He's here for the now and the moving forward, right? And so that was super healing to my heart. And it helped me realize, man, if he has such love and compassion for me, I can do the same. And then I can also have that same type of compassion, for my clients.
Before I forget, Kim, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to connect with you, because now they know that you are a health coach. So they're going to want to say, I want to meet you.
Yeah. So how they can connect. I have a Instagram account that's just at Kim Wagner Health, and I'm sure they can see how to spell my name right there. So
I'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay, sounds great. Or KimWagner.com. And then on Facebook, I do if you go to the Instagram, I have a little link that has my link tree, and there's a free health coaching group. So they can just find that on the little link tree. They can click on that and ask to be a part of that. So, yeah.
Let's talk about biohacking.
Okay.
So that's definitely kind of the trendy word. And if people are podcast listeners, you probably heard that a number of times. And it's overwhelming. There's like, oh, here's the latest and greatest tool that you have to do out there right now. Have you found some biohacking techniques that are really practical, useful, and your go-to, something you recommend for most of your
Yeah,
clients?
absolutely. Most of them are free. Okay.
Yay.
Sunlight. Morning sunlight. Now you can buy a red light device, of which I do because you and I both live in the northern hemisphere up here, and
Yeah, not much
and so
fun.
I do have a little red light device. But as much as often as possible, I'm trying to get that. I love watching the sunrises, so I'm trying to get my eyes in the sunlight. So not through a window, but even if I have to, like in the winter, pull down the screen and look out there, so sunlight, but not just morning sunlight. Like, hey, get outside for the after. Nature is huge for me. I think it's like the best energy booster ever. I can hear from God. I mean, just like it's the best. So sunlight, nature, and then some other little cheapy kind of biohacking is every night. I also try to kind of like circadian rhythm, which we can kind of delve into a little bit more if we need to, but I try to kind of what's going on in the earth, right? So in the evening when it's starting to get dark, I have these little amber glasses that I wear so that I'm not getting in the blue light. I have an amber light bulb in the little light by my bed. So
Okay.
so when it starts to get dark, and then I also have one in the living room. So there's two little places that it's almost like candlelight or like a fire glow. And I always wonder about the people that drive by my house. They're probably like, what's going on in there? But it just gives off that amber glow, which is more relaxing. Biohacker, are you ready for this? I eat real food that's alive. So that can be like a real, biohack there. But yeah, sunlight. Again, you trying to not get a lot of blue light in my eyes. But those are kind of like just using nature. Yeah, pretty simple stuff.
I like the amber light more than the red light. I hear a lot of people have like a red light sitting next to their bed. Sure, it's great and wonderful, but I was like, I don't feel like that's something I would like. But the amber light,
Amber's very relaxing.
yeah, that's calming.
Yep.
Okay, so for the bigger biohacking things, as you talked about red light that you have, because yes, we have almost no sun right now. We're filming this, and
Right. Yeah.
almost the shortest day of the year, I think, is actually today.
Ooh.
Or maybe coming up soon. Are there other biohacking or top body tips that you would recommend?
Yeah.
Look
So my favorite purchase that I have made for myself is I have an infrared sauna at home. So I love that. It has a dry brush in there. And then I literally just turn that thing on, sit in there. I do a little bit of dry brushing. It's got a little like screen in there. So sometimes I'll listen to worship music, so it kind of Bluetooths that occasionally. I might have like my journal. So I like to combine and kind of habit stack a little bit so that it's like all of these things are happening at the same time and I don't have like a 4-hour morning routine. But yeah, I really love my sauna just for detoxing. And then again, just the benefit of the infrared. Yeah.
So for those listening, maybe they're not familiar with the benefits of sweating that you get when you're in the sauna. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just another way to just, obviously we detox multiple ways through our breath and, our liver, our kidneys, but our skin is also, just this great detoxing organ. So that heat, the infrared just helps penetrate at different levels. It also kind of mimics, in a sense, a fever, which again, just can help our body. So yeah, just the one thing that I learned though, through the company that I purchased my sauna through is to make sure, afterwards, I get the sweat off of me. I don't want to reabsorb that. So I either shower right away or I'm, kind of mopping that off if I, have to run and do something else right after. And it feels really good. I guess the study out there is 19 minutes at least twice a week is the best benefit, and to do longer and more often. So,
well, we just got a red light sauna ourselves just a few months ago. Lovely, especially again here in the winter. I'm not sure I'm going to love it in the summer as much because I think we're going to sweat enough outside in all the heat and humidity. So thinking about prevention of cancer, would there be 3 daily habits that someone could start right now for cancer prevention?
yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty simple. It's going to sound cliche, but drinking water, so staying hydrated, eating real living food, so whole foods, and then just moving your body more. It doesn't have to be spectacular. I mean, I've had seasons where it's just walking. I've had seasons where it's literally jumping on the trampoline and running after grandkids. And most recently, I joined a new gym. And I'm getting my butt kicked a little bit, but it is so fun, and the community. So again, it's just recognizing that God has given me everything I already need, right? And just utilizing those things. So drink water, eat real food, move your body more. And let me go with the fourth one, I think is also just managing stress. So that could be as simple as deep breathing, getting some deep breaths in. Yeah.
How about for the person who might have been recently diagnosed with cancer? What would you say outside of or on top of these three things? What would you recommend that they look at doing right away?
I definitely would want to take a holistic approach. You know, there's some functional medicine, there's metabolic approaches to cancer. I think that it doesn't have to be either or. I think that things can be, and it's not even alternative. I think that things can be complementary. I recently went through a cancer thriver program. So obviously I'm not an active diagnosis. People, by the way, always ask me if I am in remission because, you know, the type of lymphoma that I was diagnosed with, they said there's no cure, only treatment. But I say I'm healed. And I've said healing since day one. So I think our mindset and what we speak over ourselves is very huge. But I just went through this cancer thriver program because I wanted to be like, hey, is there anything, am I doing everything right? And could we do just some labs that a typical doctor wouldn't do, right? Like a GI stool test and some Nutravals and different things like that. And she comes at this with a very metabolic approach, very functional medicine, holistic, but also, you know, has the tools of medications and different things if needed, or off-label drugs. And so I think that it is seeking out some of those, again, I don't want to say alternative, but complementary things to heal cancer.
Have you read any studies or experienced yourself the power of fasting as it relates to cancer?
Yeah, I guess I don't have like a specific book that would be like related to it. Of course, in all of my research, I definitely know, you know, the power of that. I've done some 24-hour fast. I think the longest that I went was 64, and that's not even I was trying to do a 72-hour, but again, it was kind of on a whim. And I wasn't as prepared as I could have been potentially. But yeah, I do know that there is a lot of, you know, where our cells can just, that autophagy, come in and start to kind of clean themselves up a little bit. And so I do know that there is, you know, a lot of benefit to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. The people that I've been listening to have been talking so much about the autophagy and that God designed your body to heal, and into the ways that God designed our body to heal. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about food. I love to talk about food. So are there, you know, you're talking about eating whole foods. Are there some easy foods that you love to incorporate daily or weekly? Yeah.
So when I was trying to figure out what to eat, okay, and this is early on, I remember being paranoid, right? Because if I ate the wrong thing, it was going to be my fault if I got cancer again. I was going to be poisoning myself. So there was a lot of fear surrounding food. And I just was like, wait, I do not think this is how God wants me to live, right? So again, I don't even remember like how I came up with this, except that, you know, I'm looking at when I went through health coaching school, we had like 100 different dietary theories, right? Vegan or vegetarian or keto or carnivore. Like there were so many options out there. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like stressed out about this because that's not good either, right? So I tried to take some of the best pieces and parts of the things that, what did they have in common? And they had in common whole foods and a variety of different things. So here's how I'm going to give like here's how I teach my clients. Yeah. I call it the healthy meal template. And it's like, have a plate. How can I fill half of that with some non-starchy vegetables? You know, leafy greens, bright colors, because we know those have more vitamins, minerals, polyphenols in them. And I say, how can I fill my plate with, you know, at least half my plate with that? And then how can I come over here in a quarter and do some kind of a nice, lean, yummy kind of protein, right? I tend to lean towards the animal based. I feel like it's just, they've got all those amino acids and things that you need in them. So I'm thinking, okay, what's my protein? And then I say, what's my smart carb? What is that carbohydrate that's going to give me fiber, that's going to prolong that release of glucose, a sweet potato, blueberries, whatever. And then I say, what is my healthy fat going to be? Right. And so I'm getting that, I'm not going crazy on it, but I'm like, how can I get a little small serving of that to help me to be able to be satisfied, be full, and to also just, certain vitamins are fat soluble. I want to make sure that I'm helping my body. And so that's really kind of my thing. So if I don't have a plan, which I know is going to sound crazy, you're going to think Miss Health Coach has, meal prep day and yada, yada, yada. No. I open up that fridge and I go, what's my protein, or the cabinet, right? Or pantry, what's my protein? What's my healthy fat? What's my smart carb? What kind of veggie am I going to have? And I do my smoothies. I occasionally do a smoothie, and I do those the same way too. So they're going to have all of those different components, whether it's some riced cauliflower, some kale, different things like that, some berries, maybe a little bit of almond butter. And so that's how I build my plates.
So being as I know that you do a lot of farming.
Yep.
Are there some fun new vegetables that you have been growing recently?
Well, not growing, but I just discovered a new one.
Okay.
And it is a blue potato.
Okay, I haven't tried that.
I know. Yes. I just came across this. So we have a local, it's called an orchard, but it's kind of like a little farm store not too far from us. And they purchased, my husband now has made a business out of growing microgreens, and we do natural health tonics and different things like that, because he was like, how can I help Kim get more nutrition, back in the day? And so he thought, okay, I'm going to start growing her microgreens. Well, then so-and-so wanted microgreens, and then it evolved into, this business. But we were up there delivering to them. And I always love to scan to see what they have, these purple sweet potatoes and, fun. And I go, what is this? She's like, well, this is a blue potato. And I do have to share the story of how she got these blue potatoes. She said that she had a patient or a customer come in who was a stage 4 cancer patient. And she came in and she asked for blue potatoes. And she's like, I've never even heard of blue potatoes. And she said, well, I don't know if you're going to think this is weird or not. She said, but I let the Lord direct my healing. And she said, I woke up one morning and he said, eat blue potatoes. And she goes, I don't even know if they exist. And so she went to this farm store because she knew they're really good about sourcing local and organic and everything. And so now I'm on this blue potato kick. I'm going to eat. She goes, yeah, eat one a day. I don't know. Not one a day, but I've been incorporating them in. Yeah. Okay. So that's something fun and new. So I told my husband, I said, now you got to look. Right. So that we can plant that next year.
I'm going to be on the lookout. So I've been part of a CSA for a number of years. Just love it. And being exposed to so many different vegetables. And the owner of this farm is Asian. So there's all sorts of extra new to me Asian vegetables, and actually also fruit too. I will have to see if he's into blue potatoes.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Never know. Yeah.
Let's talk about resources. And what would you recommend for books or, I don't know, websites? You, of course, would be an amazing resource. People need to reach out to you. But are there other helpful tips that you'd like to share?
I do appreciate Nasha Winters and her metabolic approach to cancer. Even though I don't follow a vegetarian diet, I think there's a lot of good in Chris Wark's Chris Beat Cancer. Because again, I think it gives you a lot of hope and a lot of possibility. And again, I have my own certain way of nutrition and how I eat, but I'm not going to, you know what I mean? There, something else, another path of healing may be for someone else, right? So another one is Paula Black, and I found her fairly early on. And interestingly enough, she came back to mind because I had subscribed to her emails and hadn't seen any for a long time, and then started getting them again. But again, Chris and Paula both have that faith integrated in their, like their treatment, besides your mindset and, speaking life over yourself and what foods you're going to eat and what are you putting on your body. So they're very holistic in that. And Nasha Winters talks about the terrain. And I really appreciate that because remember we talked about in the beginning about like everybody thinks it's genetic or whatever, but it really is this holistic, like everything matters. It's kind of like, we grow our garden, and it matters what's in our soil. It matters if it's being watered. It matters if there's sunlight. You know what I mean? Like there's so many components to go in of whether we're going to have something that what kind of fruit or vegetable we're going to produce. And if you can think about your body in the same way, it's your mindset, it's the spirit, it's the soul, it's the food, it is that holistic, approach there.
I love that. As you're talking about that, and I'm reflecting on all that you've been talking about, is God has shared so much wisdom in the Bible about how to eat with the good foods, the whole foods, and going back to living how God wanted us to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that He can help.
Yeah. Another one that when you said that came to mind. Now it's on my list. I haven't read it, but Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin own Ancient Nutrition, and they have a regenerative farm, and they just, I believe, together wrote the Biblio Diet. Now I haven't read it yet, but I would say that anything they put out is usually really good. So it'd be a good resource as well.
A girlfriend of mine who's a dietitian recommended that book. She thought it was really well done and had all the components from health, exercise, journaling, and also biblically based. So, that's good. I haven't read it myself. So as we close here, Kim, is there one last piece of advice, word of wisdom that you'd like to share with everyone?
A couple things. So the first thing that kind of came to mind was when I start to work with clients, each of my modules has usually a song that goes along with it. There's kind of a method to my madness with the songs that I have them listen to. But then there's also scripture. And the first one is don't despise the small beginnings. The Lord rejoices to see the work begin. And that's out of Zechariah 4:10. And I think that sometimes health can feel extremely overwhelming. And here you're listening to me 16 years later, but I didn't have this knowledge 16 years ago, right? So it's been like, health to me is never a destination. It is always a journey, and I'm excited about it. I'm not trying to fix myself, right? I'm not broken, and I'm not trying to fix me, right? But it is this journey that we get to go on with the Lord, but also ourselves and each other in community, right? So if you are someone that's getting ready to start, you want to know, where do I start? It's okay to start small, right? Drink the extra glass of water. Go for a 10-minute walk after each meal. Like, it can be so simple and sustainable. It's actually simpler than we think. It is just having the clarity, having a good plan, having someone that you can guide you or even be accountable to, because lots of life happens. And so many times with clients, they want to quit, right? Because it gets hard, or they had a life event or whatever. And so it's really nice to have somebody kind of hold your hand and be listening and being your cheerleader and encouraging you on. So whether that's a spouse or a friend or a dietitian or a health coach or a gym. Like I said, I have a great community at my gym. So I would say, don't despise the small beginnings. One thing can make a difference. Swapping out a cleaner, having that extra glass of water, those types of things do matter, and they do add up.
Thank you so much. Wow.
You're welcome.
You're such an inspiration, Kim.
Thank you.
I'm so thrilled that you said yes to be on the podcast today. So
yeah,
thank
me too. Yeah.
And to all of those listening, thank you. Thank you for being here today. It really means so much. If you could like and subscribe and leave a wonderful review, it sure would be such a blessing to me. So everyone, God bless.